Hey guys, Dan here with your weekly Connors review. This is for episode 3 of the second season called The Preemie Monologues. And just finished watching it, so like usual, thoughts are sort of fresh in my mind. And I'm gonna try and shorten this up a little bit. The last two episodes, or reviews, I should say, of episodes, went about as long as the episodes themselves, about 21 and a half minutes. And it's sort of odd to have a review be the same length as the thing you're reviewing. So I'm going to try and tighten up a little bit on this episode and maybe not go off on so many tangents. But so here we are with the Preemie Monologues, and as I knew, just from the title, like I talked about last week, I figured it would be about Becky and the baby, and it is, but it's also about like everybody else in the family. Almost everybody gets their own sort of storyline. Not DJ, of course. That would be silly, right? Um, and I guess not really. Well, you know what? Even Aunt Jackie does. She gets a little bit of a storyline. So, um, basically, there are kind of like three or four things going on, but they're all sort of surrounding the baby at the hospital and Becky's plight. I mean, I guess if there's an A story here, because really, I don't know. There's no A story. It seems like there's about three B stories, and then Aunt Jackie gets a C story. But there's no real A story. But I guess if there was one, it would be Becky and the baby and not being able to quite pay for the hospital anymore, and sort of freaking out at work about worrying about it. And then the tag at the end of the episode is her FaceTiming or Skyping with Emilio, the father of the baby, who's been deported, which we found out at the end of last season. We haven't really touched on it this season yet. It was briefly mentioned in the season premiere, but haven't really gotten back to it. So it was nice that they put that as the tag scene. So that's sort of like the main premise of the episode. And then you've got Dan, and we finally see Katie Seagal again. We had heard that she was going to be in a number of episodes this season, sort of as a recurring character, and trying to work the whole dating Dan angle. So that starts up just a little bit, very briefly. They don't really talk so much about dating in this episode as they do, I don't know, just sort of, her being there for him, or her helping out with the family, him allowing her to, that sort of dynamic. I think they're sort of setting the rules maybe for what their friendship or future relationship possibility is. So that's part of it. And then Darlene is still doing the David versus Ben thing. We don't see either in this episode, but she has a conversation with Harris about it, her daughter, because she knows what's been going on, and so that's sort of a little bit of a blow up between the two of them. And then Aunt Jackie is just sort of being her and trying to spend as much time with the baby as possible, and sort of dressing down the nurses for being a few minutes late, or helping them teach the baby Chinese just to give the baby a leg up, all that kind of stuff. So, she definitely gets sort of the C plot, but it's still there. There's still something. DJ actually does get a few lines in this episode, and one of them is kind of funny, so I'll give him that. And actually, his daughter Mary, who I don't even think was in the last episode at all, she appears in this episode, and she does get a sarcastic line. But since we don't really know anything about her character, I don't know. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it came off as really kind of cruel, because it's a preemie baby, and she comes in and starts saying how ugly it is, or oh, I thought you were bringing me a sister, like, what is this? I don't know. I mean, it got a laugh from the studio audience, but I thought it was a little weird, just because we don't know this character at all. Like, we've barely seen her, so a throwaway line like that, maybe on a character we know, might have gone over better. So if you're sort of getting a sense of my synopsis here, I did not really care for this episode that much. I thought there was way too much going on. Well, first of all, okay, before we even talk about any of those plots, this is ABC's Cast from the Past Stunt Casting Week. The Drew Carey show is going to show up on American Housewife. The Cheers cast is going to show up on The Goldbergs. The Girlfriends cast is going to reunite on Blackish. So, that's sort of their hook for the whole week. And so they had Dan Aykroyd come in as one of John Goodman's poker buddies. And first of all the casts that John Goodman's been a part of, I don't know, Blues Brothers 2000 isn't really the one that springs to mind, but I guess they're buddies and stuff, so it made the most sense. I mean, I personally would have maybe liked to see Jeff Daniels from Arachnophobia, but okay. But they give him a few lines, and it was an amusing scene. I don't think funny is the word I would use, but amusing. I chuckled, a bit, but I don't know, Dan's poker buddies are kind of stagnant and steady. We're never going to see this guy again. Dan Aykroyd's not going to be a regular on the show or a recurring role. So it just was sort of weird to have him there. This character we've never heard of or seen, and here he is, and he'll be gone the next episode. I don't know. It seemed weird. I know ABC was probably pushing hey, you got to be part of this cast from the past week. Is that the best that the Connors could have done? I don't know. So there's that. The whole Katie Sagal Dan thing. I like where it's going. I want to see more of it. I think it would be awesome for Dan to start moving on. I was actually incorrect, and thank you for one of my watchers commenting that I was wrong. Actually, in last week's review, they do casually mention Roseanne. They evoke her name, not by her name, but they say mom, when Dan and Becky, had their nice scene together. And, so more of the same this week. It was, still in that same hospital room, this time with John Goodman and Katie Sagal, and he accidentally calls her Rose because he feels so comfortable with her, and so this is very hard for me, and I get it. I totally get it, and Roseanne, as I've been saying, has always been about realism and real characters and real situations, and so I get that they're not going to just move on immediately, like Valerie, in the Hogan family, they kind of mentioned her a couple of times, and then the end, we don't really even have a mom, whatever. Now we've got Sandy Duncan here. So I get that you got to mention her, but I was a little, I don't know, excited when I thought that they didn't mention her in the last episode. So here we are again talking about her, and I get it, it's going to be hard for Dan, but I do want to see him move on. I want to see where this is going, so I like that Katie Sagal was there. For me, that was the great guest casting. It wasn't the Dan Aykroyd thing. Aunt Jackie's just sort of for comedic relief this week. No real plot with her, except, like I said, sort of dressing down the nurses and everything for not taking enough care of the baby or what have you, and not paying enough attention. The Darlene, David, and Ben thing, I can get behind. I like that love triangle kind of thing, but I would like it more if we saw them. Last week was a great example of how that can work. The best thing I can say about this episode is that it felt like it just flew by. I guess because there was so much going on, it felt like I watched it in 12 minutes. I actually was still into it, and I wasn't watching the clock or anything. I thought it still had 10 minutes, and then it played the closing credits and the little the vanity card, and I was like, wait, is the episode over? What's going on? It just seemed to fly by, which I guess is good, but I think it's also a matter of having too many plots, having too much thrown in there, and sort of getting lost in the sauce a bit. Like there's not too many shows that I watch of the half-hour variety that I can say like, oh wow, that really like flew by. Most of them seem like about 18, 20, 21 minutes. The Good Place, I think, is the only one where when it's over, I'm like, oh, that was it. Because they do pack a lot into it as well. But it's all based on the same plot, Every week, there's not really an A, B, C story on The Good Place. There's pretty much just the A. So I just think there was way too much going on. I don't think it was as funny as either of the two episodes that preceded it. I do think Lacey Goranson did a pretty good job. I don't think they gave her character enough good lines, enough to work with, but I think she did a good job. And honestly, Michael Fishman did fine with his couple of lines too. But I just, boy, I don't know. The whole Preemie thing I'm kind of annoyed with just because they already did it with Darlene on the original Roseanne show, and I've mentioned that before here on the podcast, but I don't know. It might have been nice to see Becky have a nice, healthy baby and come home and not be able to afford that and move into the basement without it being a preemie and all the stuff that goes with that, just because we already did it. So, we're rehashing that, and I don't know. I mean, I guess we're sort of also rehashing the Darlene love triangle thing with David, because of course we had Jimmy before, which I've mentioned that too. So, each episode is making me rehash things I've already said too. So I'm becoming a rehash. But yeah, this one didn't do it for me. I think it's awesome that we showed Emilio at the end. I liked that Becky was talking to him, and I like the Katie Seagal plotline. I like where that's going. But on the whole, it just wasn't doing it for me. And I'm actually going to leave the Preemie Monologues with a C+. Very average, I thought. Bad use of Dan Aykroyd. I just having him as a poker buddy, it just doesn't. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like we know all of Dan's poker buddies, and we've never seen this dude before. So it was just weird. They could have cast him as something else. I'm sure they could have thought of something, or maybe have a different, plot line. I mean, he could have been in last week's episode as, the father of the gay kid that Mark kissed, instead of Megan Faye being the mom or the grandmother or whatever. So I don't know. I was pretty disappointed with this episode, and after last week was so good. I really was hoping for more. So, I don't know. I mean, if we're going to get 19 episodes this season, I really, really would like them to have more like last week's and less like this week's. Less scattered, less sort of pointless casting, and funnier. I didn't think it was that funny. Very, very average episode for me. So we'll wrap it there, so we don't go to the full 21 minutes like we did the last couple weeks. But I am keeping up on all of the new series premieres. So this week I will have another TV news and reviews episode for you. We'll be taking a look at Bless the Hearts and some of the other new shows, Almost Family on Fox, and a few others. So check that out. Check out the other ones too. We just did the NBC and CBS law shows on Monday and comedy shows on Thursday. They both networks have new shows that are sort of the same variety on the same nights. So I talked about that. And what else? All the other new stuff. We'll be doing more Frasier Fridays. I'm going to have Merlin over. We're going to do some more Disney reviews and some more Frasier Fridays. So look forward to that coming up as well. But that is going to do it for now. Please comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. I always love hearing from you, and respond when I can to those. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.